reconvene the February 21st, 2018 agenda of the Missouri Public Service Commission. We have Commissioners Kenny and Coleman on the line. Good morning, one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First order of business is to approve draft minutes from the February 15th agenda. Those were distributed in advance. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections?
No.
All those in favor of approving those minutes as drafted, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. Aye.
And they are approved 5-0. We have closed minutes from the February 15th agenda as well. Those were also distributed in advance. Are there any comments, questions, or corrections regarding those?
No.
No.
All those in favor of approving those minutes as drafted, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. Aye.
And those are approved 5-0. We only have one new tariff in order to take up today, though it is a rather significant one. And it is the Spire rate case. I'd like to first say thank you, Judge, for all of your hard work on putting this together. This was, I think, maybe the most complex rate case that I've been involved in since I've been on the commission. And I think you did an excellent job handling the case from beginning to end, in particular putting together an order. So thank you for all your hard work on that.
I appreciate. I had a lot of assistance. So.
Yes, you did.
And I appreciate
that as well.
that.
We have before us version 3, all
54?
50, is that right? 54 pages. So I'll just make one note. A number of us on the commission, myself included, express concern and skepticism and dislike of black box settlements. This is certainly the opposite of black box settlement. But I will say also, as complex as this is, I do think that it results in more transparent policy than your typical black box settlement. So I appreciate the process here. I support the order as drafted. First and foremost, I'll note that this is the first rate case for Spire, Missouri, with Laclede and MGE combined, and that certainly added a great deal of complexity to the case. It is also the first case where the commission has taken up the issue of the federal tax cuts. Our first opportunity to take those tax savings to a utility and flow them to ratepayers. I think we did this in a way in this case that was completely appropriate, noting that the effective date of the tax cut was outside of the test year and true-up period, but we determined appropriately, I believe, that it was significant enough and unique enough to warrant that special treatment. At the same time, we also, I believe, were even-handed that and took into account some other taxes that were increasing outside the true-up period and allowed those as partial offsets to this tax cut. And then we put trackers in place to make sure that the calculations are fair and accurate to all the parties. The second thing that I'm particularly happy about regarding this order is the inclining block rate structure that we put in place for the winter. For the summer, and then the level block rate structure for the winter. I think that's fair. I think it promotes conservation. This is also the first case where we've implemented a weather normalization adjustment rider specifically authorized by statute, and it will allow for some stability for the utility, at the same time within the parameters of what is authorized under the statute. I'm proud that we are also expanding our low-income assistance programs in this order. I think it is also appropriate that we have set up a working docket to update the Spire Missouri CAM, the Cost Allocation Manual. This is what's going to be used to allocate costs amongst an increasing number and diversity of Spire Inc. affiliates. And lastly, I think the sharing of rate case expense is appropriate, and it's fair to shareholders and ratepayers. I will note that I think the ROE that we have ordered in this document is a little higher than I would have preferred. I think it was within the range of our discretion, but it is a little higher than I think was necessary. And I'll also note that I would have supported a somewhat different capital structure, though the capital structure that we have in place in this order is certainly within our discretion, and there is evidence to support it. So I support the order as a whole, and I will give any other commissioner the opportunity to weigh in. Commissioner Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would concur with all of your statements except regarding ROE and capital structure. I think the ROE are good, and I think the capital structure was proven the case. It could go that way. That being said, I would like to also personally thank Judge Dipple for her work from start to finish. This was a very difficult case, and there's a lot of compromise taking place within it, but I didn't, as you mentioned, regarding black box settlements, this was far from that. But I appreciate the work. I'm not going to belabor the moment, but I want to thank my fellow commissioners also for working to what I think is a good order, and I support the order version 3 going forward.
Commissioner Root.
I'm in support of the order. Very pleased with how it turned out. Wanted to echo the comments of both of you for the judge. Excellent job putting this together, holding parties in a very heated rate case. I think you did a very good job of keeping everyone in line and keeping them on task and on focus. And I think this was good rate making. I think this was an extremely difficult case where we aired out every possible issue with lively discussion, lots of disagreement, moving parts, and I think that the end process, the end product and the process worked very well. Very pleased with the outcome. Obviously there are things in here that it didn't go the way that I had wanted, but I'm very pleased with the outcome, and I think it ended up being an excellent showcase on rate making that is done well in a complex situation with very passionate people on both sides.
Commissioner Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, too, agree that this was a very involved, detailed case. It reminds me of going to Rate School 101, which, by the way, I didn't like. But this gave me the opportunity to once again remember all the ins and outs of what it is we do here. Thank you, Judge, for all the work you put into it. As I was discussing with Ms. Ketchum over the past few weeks, that I wondered when you went to sleep when I'm getting emails at 1 o'clock in the morning and 2 o'clock in the morning. But, Mr. Chairman, and to the rest of my commissioners, I do believe that everything that has been said by the 3 commissioners before me, that we worked hard on this, everyone did, and I do think, I agree with Commissioner Root that, I was not in agreement with everything, and that we all of the final decisions, but that's part of the compromise of making it work for us to provide the safe and reliable service at just and reasonable rates. So thank you.
Commissioner Selby?
Thank you. Yes, I support the order as well. I want to thank the fellow commissioners, the staff, the judge for helping me as I got thrown into the middle of this, learning this new role and with this case. I also want to say, just from a process standpoint, I appreciate how the PSC operates in that I was able to go back and watch video of the testimony, not only read the transcripts, but watch. And in the legislature, that's not something we have the opportunity to do. If you miss a hearing, you miss a hearing. And, so I think that's good government that's out there for everybody to see. But I am heartened that everyone says this is the most complicated case the commission has seen in years, because that means it'll only get easier from here. So, but with that, I support the order.
Okay. All right. Well, we have version 3 before us. All those in favor of that order, please indicate by saying aye.
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 That's approved 5-0. Commissioner Kenny, Commissioner Coleman, may I affix your initials to the order?
Please, thank you.
All right. Let's quickly turn to, well, we have a presentation. Oh, thank you. We have a presentation on behalf of the Missouri Energy Efficiency, NRDC, Renew, and Elevate Energy. Who is taking the lead on
There's
this?
a few of us. Maybe we could just all stand and introduce ourselves.
Okay, and you can go ahead and,
Yeah, and we're, I think, going to have some slides pulled up, and I have some copies of a potential study you guys can take,
okay.
which has been approved.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. We're just waiting on the slides here, but we can introduce ourselves in the meantime.
Okay.
So I'm Laura Goldberg with Natural Resources Defense Council, our Midwest Energy Efficiency Advocate.
My name is Cliff Poppert. I'm the Kansas City-based lead for Elevate Energy.
My name is Philip Fusika. I'm a policy organizer at Missouri in Columbia.
My name is Ray Schnabel. I'm Director of Sustainability for Maxis Properties, which is a management company, and we manage about 60 properties in about 13 states. So they asked me to join them.
Okay.
And then we have one more friend back here who's not presenting but can introduce
Nick
himself.
Dreyer. I'm with the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance.
I'm just waiting on these slides and we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And this is Dana Gray. I'm with Tower Grove Neighborhoods Community Development Corporation. I'm listening in on the conference line.
Okay, so thank you so much to the chairman and all the commissioners for having us here today, and I'm going to start us out, and then we're all going to kind of divide and conquer this presentation.
Okay.
Feel free to ask questions throughout, but we'll also leave plenty of time at the end for questions as well. So we're here today representing the Missouri Energy Efficiency for All Coalition, but I just want to give a little bit of background on the Energy Efficiency for All initiative at the national level, and then we'll dive into the local Missouri level. So Energy Efficiency for All is a partnership between the National Housing Trust, NRDC, Elevate Energy, Energy Foundation, and all funded through the JPB Foundation. And then we work with local partners in 12 states across the country, including Missouri. And here in Missouri, we have all of our partners here with us today and also on the phone. So what is Energy Efficiency for All? We are an initiative that's focused on making multifamily homes healthy and affordable through energy efficiency. And when I talk about multifamily, I'm specifically talking about 5+ multifamily. And our goal is to reach 5 million homes, including units and buildings, in those 12 states. There we go. So here's just a little bit of a snapshot of our network here in Missouri. So the core partners, like I said, are here with us today, but we work with a variety of partners all across the state of Missouri, from financing agencies, CAP agencies, developers, utilities, low-income community groups. We really have a variety of partners that we work with. And one of our partners is also building owners and developers, and you might be wondering why they care about energy efficiency. We talk a lot about energy efficiency from the energy or environmental perspective, but the housing world also cares about efficiency. And that's really because energy costs present the best way and best opportunity for owners and developers to reduce their operating expenses. And another reason that we focus on multifamily efficiency is because multifamily is often overlooked. Low-income programs are also often overlooked. So combining those two, we found that the multifamily low-income sector is a place that needs more attention, programs that are designed specifically for that sector.
Great. And here we present some common barriers to participation for our multifamily partners. As you may be aware, our affordable housing partners have operate on smaller budgets than our market rate multifamily property owners, but we have limited staff with limited capabilities and expertise in energy efficiency. They are very well versed in day-to-day property management, budgeting, maintenance, but in those specific evaluations and evaluating energy efficient measures in which present the best benefit for them, we often find those skills are needed to be contracted outside of the firms. Many of them don't have enough staff to be able to take that on and be able to hire that internally. Many of them have complicated meter arrangements where we may have some utilities paid for by the owner, multiple utilities paid for by the resident, sub-metering situations, and bill pass-through. So it's very complicated, a lot to evaluate who actually receives that benefit in some cases. And then lack of information. This may be one of the biggest ones, but we spend most of our time working with property owners, educating them on what programs are available to them through the various utility programs in their service areas. So having that collective information for them to be able to understand and decode which ones they are eligible for. Financing is always a concern. Where's the money going to come from? Some lenders do provide funds specifically for energy efficiency. Some owners do have some capital on hand, but having a partner who's aware of specific options has provided quite a benefit for them as well. A couple of others, just regulatory barriers. Again, what programs do they qualify for? And then having somebody that will walk through the construction process with them. Sometimes some of these larger construction jobs can take quite some amount of time. And again, dedicated staff on the part of the property owner is a barrier there.
I always thought that the number one reason why this was such a problem was a situation where you had the individual paying the bill is not the individual that owns the unit. And so if you were to, put in a new furnace or put in light bulbs,
right.
And I assume that that's included in what you said on the owner bandwidth. But isn't that the number one problem?
I would say that is that would fall under complex metering situations as well, and it really depends upon the building type, right? Because not all buildings in Missouri are individually metered for tenant-paid utilities. Some tenants just pay gas. Some tenants just pay electric. Some tenants only pay water, or so to speak. It's very individualized. I would say probably by far and large, our largest majority of property owners are passing those costs for electric and gas onto the tenant. But even in those situations, when properties refinance, have an opportunity to make energy efficiency upgrades.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying that the problem I'm talking about is, is going to kill any opportunity. I'm just saying, I mean, isn't it true that that is the number one problem?
I might interject here.
Absolutely.
We own some properties, but we manage all of our properties, and that indeed is a huge piece. Typically, in our affordable housing in Kansas City, the tenant pays the electric, and then they're given an allowance, and we can charge a certain amount of rent because they're low income, and then we give them a utility allowance for having paid their electric. The water and sewer is something that we pay completely. So that certainly is a piece of it. Also, he was alluding to or said that the information and the availability of information is difficult to find and to work through in many cases. But it certainly is a huge piece, is the cost of it.
I will also add the split incentive, which is what you're referring to, or what we often refer to it as, is a big issue, but I wouldn't say it falls way above some of these other issues. I think it's the number one thing people think of when they think of multifamily, but most owners are still responsible for common areas. So
Yes.
what we've really seen as a best practice is programs that target those common areas and the units at the same time, that it's an all-inclusive package. So an owner could be upgrading their systems, but also helping the tenants at the same time.
And we have done a lot of that, and the direct install program that KCP&L has, we've just completed that at our low income, and we've done all of the common area lighting retrofits that we can do, and we pay for those. And then the tenant pays for the electric, and that direct install included lighting in the units to help them decrease their. So the rebates and the pieces that we get the help with from an energy audit, that we use Elevate Energy or someone else outside to do that, because we don't have staff that can do or is knowledgeable to do or has time to do that. We wouldn't know how to do it.
And I think the potential study talks about, just one last point on this, tenant retention and those operating costs that I showed on the previous slide is a huge barrier for owners.
Yes.
And when even the tenants are paying the bills, if those bills go down, the likelihood of tenant retention goes up.
Absolutely.
Cliff or Ray, anything else on this slide?
I don't think so, other than the financial piece of it with residents, because typically low income also has other things that stand in their way. They may have automobiles that don't work very well, and then they have trouble getting to work, and they lose their jobs, and it's just kind of a rolling ball. So the more we can do to make things where they're living energy efficient, so their utility bills aren't high, that can help them in many different respects in other pieces of what they're doing.
All right, well, there are a few different types of affordable housing. We're not just referring to just one bucket when we use that very broad term. We have probably what comes to mind with most people would be public housing. This is housing provided by our local housing authorities, which Missouri has many, owned and operated by the housing authority. Next, we have certain types of subsidized housing. These would include our tax credit properties, some other properties that have received financing from HUD or the FDA or other USDA sources that still have income restrictions, but are independently owned and managed by nonprofit or for-profit entities. And then we have a naturally occurring affordable market. And these are properties that have no guidance on rents other than market forces, but because their rents are below a certain level, they become affordable to people who would normally be considered at or below a certain area median income. So again, no restrictions as far as what they could or could not spend their rents on, or what they could or could not charge, but still qualified under affordable housing. And again, as Laura had mentioned, we do consider multifamily to be anything at or above 5 units. This slide shows a couple of the market share in the various utility areas in Missouri here of the unsubsidized, the subsidized, and the public housing volume. And you can see that the subsidized affordable in Ameren, Missouri, and Kansas City is equal to or greater than the unsubsidized, the naturally occurring affordable housing.
That the stat at the bottom of that page that 58% of all multifamily units are affordable multifamily units. Does that vary significantly geographically?
I would say so, yes. I would say probably much greater in our rural areas. Definitely.
What's your source for that?
Lower.
That's really I had no idea that percentage was that high.
58%. It's either from our, it's from the National Housing Trust, our housing partner.
Oh, so is that a national?
Yeah, that's a national number.
Thank you.
Yep.
As I mentioned, Elevate Energy, we work directly with some utility companies, but we work for and consider the majority of our clients the property owners that we work with. We are in and out of their buildings, working with their residents, their property managers, to identify ways to reduce operating expenses for them and maintain rents that are affordable to the majority of the population. So we spend a lot of effort trying to reach them, making them aware of the various utility programs that they qualify for, and becoming members of associations that they belong to, so that we can have that contact and make them aware of the incentives that are available. Some of the ways in which we reach out to multifamily property owners, there are some owners that come into contact with us directly through the utility website or outreach of our utility partners. But by and large, most of the agencies we come in contact with are through other efforts. MHDC has proven a great advocate recently with the inclusion of the energy audit in their qualified action plan. We have had quite a number of housing developers approach us requesting energy audits, and the local utilities have all been presenting at MHDC workshops. So knowledge and awareness of the programs has grown greatly recently with that inclusion. We work with our local state offices for USDA and HUD, our local housing authorities and housing agencies through the Housing Choice Voucher Program, especially. And then, of course, the National Housing Preservation Database. This is my cold call list, so to speak, where I reach out directly. And my past, my experience, I've worked with nonprofit community development corporations, worked for them as an employee, developing affordable housing. So coming into contact with our for-profit partners, our larger portfolio partners, has been something that I've worked for in my experience. So tapping into those relationships, those associations, to help them understand what's aware through the local utility companies and where we can save them money.
Is water and sewer outside your area, or what do you do with water and sewer?
So energy efficiency is really our focus. As water ties into that, we try to make it a priority too. As sewer, though, we have not done anything on it.
Elevate does include water savings in our energy audits. We don't include any sewer expense in ours though, but we do look for ways to reduce that water expense, especially since that's something that, by and large, most 95% of our property owners are paying water.
But yeah, to the degree that it ties in with gas measures,
So do you have any water companies that you partner with?
We do not have any rebates that we're able to direct our owners to for water. We just identify savings for the owner.
As a property person, because we were discussing this earlier, finding the information of where to go for rebates is there is a website that somebody in North Carolina discovered or created, desiredusa.org. And that's when I started in this. That's where I started. And it at least tells you, they may be out of date, but it tells you any programs that are available rebate-wise within a state. And then from there, for instance, in Missouri, we had Ameren as well as KCP&L. And so then went to the website specifically to look for things, and I have a difficult time navigating through those sometimes. So I'd end up typically talking to somebody at KCP&L or at Ameren to find out specifically what direction I needed to go and who I needed to talk to. And the other piece of that kind of complicates it is there's typically a commercial side and a residential side. And the residents are on the residential side, and the property owners or the property management are on the commercial side, so you're coordinating both. Using outside auditors such as an Elevate Energy that can come in and do an entire building audit is always the first place I want to go, because that gives me an idea not only on the energy side, but the water and sewer. And as you all probably are aware, water and sewer expenses are becoming much higher than our electricity costs. We were in about 13 states, and I am unaware of any water utility that's doing any kind of rebates currently. And I think that's unfortunate for those of us that use water, which I believe we all do, because it's becoming a huge piece. And from an operational standpoint, it's becoming a huge piece for multifamily as well. In some cases, particularly in affordable housing, we pay all of the water and sewer for all of the residents. That's the way that works. And we have some properties, because of market conditions, that we pay all the water and sewer. So it becomes a huge piece of our operation. And we're starting to. Our company's done about $3 million worth of energy efficient and water or utility savings overall, and we've paid for about $1 million with that, and we've used, therefore, free programs and rebates to compensate for the other $2 million, and that's huge. And we're saving millions of dollars by taking advantage of all of the programs that are available, or the ones that we can find.
And we would say that that is maintaining affordability for our citizens here in Missouri for those properties, because but for that intervention, rents would increase.
Wasn't there a website you found in North Carolina?
No, it's not in North Carolina. The North Carolina University, I think, is the one that developed it. It's dsireusa.org.
Yeah, and it's a national website.
Yeah.
They have a lot of utility programs listed.
And they're not always current today. Are you a North Carolinian?
No.
No.
D-I-S.
DSIRE USA USA.org. And that's a great place to at least start to see what's available or has been available in each state.
Although I think it highlights, the confusion in the marketplace that Ray had to go to a national website to find out what was happening here in Missouri.
I mean, to get started, you just have to do that.
Yeah.
A couple other questions. And I'm going to put you all on the spot, but that's where we need to get information. So, utility programs offered by Ameren, KCP&L, and Aspire. Specifically, let's talk about Ameren. On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being 5 stars is awesome, how would you rate their utility program?
Their current program? Philip's looking at me. I would say 2 to 3, maybe 3. Right in the middle.
KCP&L?
Probably more 3.5.
Yeah, I'd probably rate that one higher. Just because there's more programs available that I've taken advantage of through them. They've had a thermostat program we've done. We've done all LED retrofits that we can do. We've done the energy audit. We've done direct install, which is into the residents. I've worked with other utilities, other locations, that they also do weatherization programs, which is going directly into the units and replacing AC units and the thermostats and doing the aerators. Well, direct install does aerators.
So
and
the KCP&L, they offer more?
So
offer more
incentive.
They hire quality programs too, or they have more than it?
I would say they have taken on some program design pieces that we would recommend, including more of a one-stop shop approach that we've talked a little bit about, where an owner can get their information in one place. I think we're always looking for utilities across our territories to improve that piece. KCP&L, I would say, has started to adopt some of those best practices. And Ameren, I think, is just a little further behind.
Aspire?
Spire currently, I'd say, would be behind both of those. But
I think they've just started a program.
Yes, but
It's just
they're just
initially out.
they're just launching some new stuff, and I
Right.
think that's
It's in
gonna,
conjunction with KCP,
And
I believe.
I'm less experienced on the Ameren side of the utility experience, but being from both a housing developer in my previous life and now working for Elevate Energy, I have experienced great levels of incentives from both previously MGE, now Spire, and KCP&L. And personally, with the combined program through income eligible multifamily that is combining the rebates from both Spire and KCP&L through Elevate Energy and ICF, I think we have a very good program, one that's bringing those incentives and rebates and assessments together into a single document from both utility companies
So
for
yeah,
the owner to review.
I'd say Spire was behind, but now in terms of collaborating with KCP&L, they're
What about Empire?
miles better. What'd you say?
What about Empire?
Empire, I believe, is not currently doing too much, and they don't have a multifamily program, so it
And they
would
don't
be
have
a
a-
zero for multifamily.
They also have a commercial funding issue. As we're talking about multifamily, when they changed the recent budget, they used all of the funds for the commercial program about 6 months early. And for their customers that are multifamily owners, that is the rebate they'd want to use for retrofits would be the CNI program.
So getting back to Ameren's programs, there's not as many as what KCP&L is offering is kind of what I'm hearing, but the quality, is it are they difficult to use, difficult to understand, are they just outdated? Where could they improve?
My experience
Yeah, I
is that they were probably as easy to use as the KCP, because we work through a contractor who does all the paperwork for us to submit to the KCP&L or Ameren, and the rebates were pretty equivalent in the LED lighting retrofits that we did. I'm not aware that Ameren has a direct install program. Do you know? Okay, I don't think they do. If they do, we will be taking advantage of that because that's one that goes into the units. But I think the rebates were equivalent from a monetary standpoint.
Then
And-
why then?
So in
With
terms
KCP&L.
of envelope measures like air sealing and insulation, I believe KCP&Ls are richer. They're doing more to do deeper in buildings rather than Ameren's. I
haven't done those.
but that's
with
that's
that, yeah.
currently.
Depending on the building type,
yeah.
I do envelope testing with a blower door, duct blasting, depending on what opportunities we see the property owner coming forward with. If they're facing a moderate to full rehab, we would go much deeper in our assessment and analysis.
So what's included in the housing? The Housing Development Commission starting to include home energy audits. How deep is that energy audit they're doing? Is it just here, I'll wrap your pipes and stuff? Or are they doing any blower tests?
If they're doing a standard ASHRAE level 1, then they would not be doing a blower door test. Elevate Energy does, this is not an official rating, but like a ASHRAE level 1.5, right? We go a little bit beyond what an ASHRAE level 1 requires and not quite to the point of what an ASHRAE level 2 requires. But in cases where we see the opportunity to add to our understanding of the building science that we're evaluating in this unique property, we will do blower doors. I did 2 last week. I'll be doing another one next week with the IEMF program.
And I don't believe MHDC is doing their own audits.
They're requiring
They're
an
requir-
ASHRAE level 1 completed by someone who's certified with the Building Performance Institute, ResNet, or Energy Star.
And that could be with one of the utilities. And that's, our recommendations to them are combine forces and for folks to take advantage of LIHTC to also have to take advantage of energy efficiency.
Do you work with the co-ops and how does
I have not.
In some places, yes, we haven't done a ton in Missouri yet.
We've had Renew Missouri's had conversations with them about multifamily programs. Same thing with Mapua. Talking to municipal utilities about what commission has done and what the IOUs are currently offering, and trying to get them to look at doing similar type programs. Or another example, it could be an on-bill financing type that could address some of these issues in an all-inclusive way. So we've started those conversations, but it helps to have a place with the commission to talk about these issues, and we don't have that with the other utilities.
And one thing we've done with co-ops and munis in some other states is have them partner with the larger IOUs. So in places where there might be an overlap in territory, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel, they can also just expand the use of the IOUs program to a larger territory.
Thank you.
I hope those ratings don't turn into grades somewhere official. But always room for improvement, but we're excited by the progress that's been made, and we'll talk a little more about that.
Okay, so we worked.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, okay, relative to the local public housing authorities, certainly those types of units, multifamily public housing units, have lots of complex metering systems that you alluded to previously. And certainly there are a lot of regulations relative to those. So what type of communications do you have with housing authorities, and what type of interest results are you getting? If I could get like a quick answer on that, because
Sure.
I see we got a lot of more slides to go.
Oh, and I can only
Few
speak.
more slides.
I can only speak to my experience in the western part of the state, specifically with the Housing Authority of Kansas City, Missouri. And we have found our partners over there to be very collaborative, very forward-thinking for energy efficiency. They are restricted as they cannot take on any additional debt during operations.
Right.
They are seeking alternative solutions for this, and in instances where they are restructuring their debt and rehabbing the property, they absolutely take advantage of this. I would imagine the experience in other housing authorities of the same size would be equivalent. And I don't have a lot of experience with our smaller housing authorities that may only own 2 or 3 properties.
So these are not just properties that, for instance, Section 8, a person with a Section 8 voucher could go and rent a property. Are you talking about those types of properties, or are you talking about the actual large public housing authorities, or both?
In my previous statement, I'm only talking about the housing authorities, not our for-profit partners or nonprofit partners who are partnering with the Housing Choice Voucher Program.
Okay.
But
all right, thank
in
you.
terms of what we're talking about across, it's all of the above.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay, so we worked with a group called Optimal Energy. They did a potential study of energy savings in Missouri. This is from 2015 through 2034, and looked at the cumulative electric and gas savings. And these numbers here would be in year 2034 if we did everything we could from this potential study starting in 2015. We'd see an overall 15% reduction in electricity demand in affordable multifamily buildings, which would be 358 gigawatt hours, and a 17% reduction in gas demand in affordable multifamily, and that'd be 590 billion BTUs. And this is where this would actually come from. So if you're looking at where these savings would be broken up by category, on the left side here we have a breakdown of electric, and on the right we have gas. Gas is really just water heating and space heating, but as you see with electric, it's a bit more complicated, as we have plug usage, lighting, space heating, heating and cooling, and water heating all included there. And then non-energy benefits, which we have talked about before. This slide is representing for every dollar spent in energy efficiency, we're getting $3 of value to society in non-energy benefits. And what are non-energy benefits? It is a very wide swath of measures, which we have here, some of which are pretty clear utility benefits. They don't have to call people, don't have to go to collections agency and have bad debt write-off because they can get that in terms of a lower bill, can be paid on time. Participant benefits, that goes from comfort to health, reduced time in the ER, kids going to school, parents going to work. That's pretty significant. And societal benefits from environmental, security, job creation, economic development. A big part of it is energy efficiency also brings a lot of jobs to the state.
What study are you citing here again?
It's a potential study that we did with a group called Optimal Energy, and we can send that.
Is that a published study?
It is a published study. It's on our website, which we'll show at the end, Energy Efficiency for All.
And does it break down these utility benefits versus these other two bundles of benefits?
In terms of a quantitative breakdown, unfortunately, no. But
well, then how did you get to the 3-to-1 number to start with?
That's a good question.
I think those are a national number.
I'm sorry?
I think the 3-to-1 is a national number from National Housing Trust, and these examples are provided in
Because
the
I would
study.
be really interested in anything that showed, particularly the utility benefits, which I think are probably much more quantifiable than the other two bundles. Okay.
But if we have a clear way, especially for Missouri, to have quantifiable non-energy benefits, we'll definitely be sharing that.
We also have a close relationship with the researchers that did this study, so we could definitely ask them to look into quantifying some of these things if that would be of interest.
Or at least just the utility part. So then here we're looking at the maximum achievable potential of gas. So one thing here, we have no non-energy benefits on the left here, and the BCR benefit to cost ratio would be 1.9. And then if we included non-energy benefits, that could go all the way up to 2.7. So that'd be a range we'd be looking at. The benefits clearly are a lot more significant than the costs in both scenarios. And then we have another similar look, but this is for electric maximum achievable scenario, and same thing. Benefit to cost ratio goes up, but for electric it's actually a little bit higher here in the high NEBS part as related to gas. That was about 2.7, 2.9. This is 3.3. So electric, we have even bigger potential to help society.
Okay. So moving on to some of the work we've done specifically in Missouri and some of the progress we've seen in the state. So KCP&L and Ameren have launched targeted programs, so getting more to the specifics of their programs, that include audits, direct install, and richer commercial custom incentives for low-income multifamily. So both do include all of those things, like we talked about earlier. Some are a little bit richer on the KCP&L side, but we've seen a lot of progress in both utilities. The City of Kansas City and St. Louis have passed ordinances that require benchmarking of buildings over 50,000 square feet, which does include multifamily, so getting multifamily owners' data in order to benchmark where their energy savings could go. The St. Louis Affordable Housing Commission has set EE standards for funding recipients. MHDC, which we talked about this earlier, has added that energy audit, asking tax credit applicants to obtain one. KCP&L and Ameren each include low-income multifamily in their potential studies. Legislation has removed, so this is a recent one, restrictions that prevented LIHTC, low-income housing tax credit properties, from also participating in utility energy efficiency programs. And I think Cliff could talk to the boom in interest and availability of folks since that restriction has gone away. The Division of Energy has completed their statewide technical resource manual, with some of our partners worked hard on. And then MEA rules now allow quantifiable NEBs to be considered in benefit cost tests, and statewide DSM collaborative is now gaining new momentum, which our partners are actually working to get a low-income working group off the ground to focus on multifamily as well as single-family low-income issues. And here are some of those resources I was talking about. So the EFA website, where you can find the potential study under resources, or we're happy to send it over, is listed on the left. And then the preservation database, which Cliff had talked about earlier, is on the right. This is a database that utilities and other stakeholders can use as well, to find where affordable multifamily properties are throughout the country, including here in Missouri. And our white paper, which there's copies there, another resource from when we launched the project here in Missouri, starting in 2014. April 2015 is when that white paper was published, along with Illinois. And then our program design guide, which is where a lot of the recommendations when we are working with utilities and advocating for increased and better efficiency programs, is where we pull a lot of our information from. And that's it for the presentation. I do want to give Ray a moment if she had anything else she wanted to talk about in terms of her properties, or we can just open it up for questions. But thank you so much.
Dana's on the phone as well.
Yeah, Dana, I don't know. So another one of our partners, Tower Groves Neighborhood CDC, which is based in St. Louis, is on the phone. Dana, did you have any final thoughts?
We are beginning to try and use some of the incentive programs for our properties, and we have used some of the weatherization programs. So we are hoping to implement some of the programs that we've been able to advocate for in our portfolio of rental properties.
And if you're not aware, Tower Grove's located in St. Louis on the Cameron side. So.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Any other questions?
Just one. Other than being receptive to these types of programs in MIA applications and I guess in gas rate cases, is there anything that we need to be doing that we're not along these lines?
I mean, we're working on a low income, or we're advocating for a low income working group as part of the collaborative process. So I would say just keep being supportive of working groups as part of that and stakeholder meetings. But otherwise,
Yeah,
I would say specifically just recognizing the difference between affordable housing and multifamily housing. Our affordable housing partners operate on much smaller budgets than our for-profit housing partners do, even when it's owned by a for-profit entity. An affordable housing complex, especially a LIHTC property, is foregoing, deferring maintenance, making that 15-year slide into resyndication through the state, and kind of holding the property together with very limited funding. These are the properties which service and house Missouri's most vulnerable population to so many different sources, but those properties, this can make a huge difference for. And separating out the need for affordable housing programs in these programs specifically would be of a huge benefit to the state and to the residents of the state.
What about the creation of a infrastructure bank, energy efficiency bank, green bank, whatever you want to call it, to help with financing or lower that with that?
So leveraging a loan pool would be amazing. We've had several discussions about this, and we have an ongoing discussion about PACE financing in the state as well, and have seen very little uptake in PACE financing in the markets that I'm aware of. But through programs like Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, and through other CDFIs, our affordable housing partners, they're pretty savvy in financing, right? So if you have a financing option, if you're going to pool some funds together to create a loan pool specifically for energy efficiency, if the rates are competitive and the terms are competitive, they'll take advantage of it.
But one just to add on to that, one best practice we see is utilities being able to direct owners and participants in their programs directly to financing. For those who are maybe less savvy and don't know how to cover some of the costs that they may incur with these programs, Elevate in Illinois, through their program with the work they do with ComEd, they actually have a three-way call sometimes with the owner, the utility, and the financing agency. And we just had a meeting yesterday with the city of Kansas City on financing, and there are a lot of options in the state, but similar to the efficiency programs, they're scattered, they're difficult to find, and I think in any way that we can be connecting the
Coordinate that.
utility programs
One-
to financing would be great.
One pitfall I see with energy efficiency financing, specifically as it relates to the affordable housing market, and like Laura had referenced our partnership in Illinois with CIC. If an affordable housing developer can go to a CDFI and borrow at 4%, then my 5.5% or 6% loan that's specific to energy efficiency isn't going to appeal for them. They'll just go and get the loan for affordable housing, which they can use for energy efficient measures. So not just comparing your rates in terms to other initiatives specific to energy efficiency, but to the market that's available to the population you're trying to reach.
So I think the venues that you listed are definitely the venues to be paying attention and just remembering that multifamily, but specifically affordable multifamily, is very unique, needs more attention, needs more specific program design, more richer incentives, and these are the sort of best practices we're seeing and want to make sure also.
Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you
very,
so much.
Very interesting presentation. Really important work you're doing, so thank you.
We really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Yeah,
Thank you for
thanks so
your
much for your time.
Well, we just have to turn to scheduling and we can adjourn. Just finished the Spire rate case, and starting Monday, we will start the Missouri Water rate case that is scheduled to last 2 weeks through March 9th. On February 28th, we have agenda scheduled at noon to accommodate that hearing. And then Monday, March 12th, we start an evidentiary hearing on the Great Plains West Star merger case that is currently scheduled to go the entire week from the 12th to the 16th. And then starting March 19th, we have an evidentiary hearing in the Gascony Water rate case. And then on the 21st, we have agenda at 9:30, and then a local public hearing at 6 o'clock in the Liberty Utilities natural gas rate case. That is in Butler, Missouri. And then on March 22nd, we have an evidentiary hearing in a merger case involving Liberty Utilities and its acquisition of Bill U Water Company. And that gets us through most of March. Any further business coming before the commission?
Nope.
Seeing none, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.